My name is Amelia. I'm 27 now, but this story started years ago when I was much younger. Jessica was my best friend. We met when we were kids and we grew up together. We did everything together, school, sleepovers, even talking about our dreams for the future. We were close, like sisters. We shared everything, our secrets, our worries, and all the little things in between. We promised we'd always be there for each other. Then came high school. That's where I met Lucas. It wasn't some magical moment, it was just a normal day. But it was the day that changed everything. We were at a school event. It wasn't a big party, just a small gathering. I was standing with Jessica, feeling a little shy. That's when I saw Lucas. He was sitting across the room. He was tall, with brown hair, blue eyes, and a smile that seemed to light up the room. Everyone liked him. He was popular. But he noticed me. He came over and said hi. I wasn't sure what to say, but we started talking. He asked about my classes, my favorite music, and what I liked to do in my free time. I didn't know what it was, but there was something different about him. He wasn't like the other popular guys. He actually listened to what I had to say. We talked for a while. After that, he asked if I wanted to hang out sometime. I said yes, of course. From that day on, Lucas and I started spending more time together. We had lunch together at school. We texted every night. It felt so easy with him. Jessica was happy for me. She always said I looked so happy when I was around him. I felt it too. He made me feel like I was important. Everything felt perfect. I was in love, and Jessica was always there, cheering me on. But that was just the beginning. Things were about to change, and I didn't know it yet. After that first time Lucas and I spent together, things between us just felt natural. We started hanging out more, going to movies, taking walks, and talking for hours about everything. It was simple, but it felt like the most important thing in the world. I was falling for him, and I didn't mind. He made me feel special in a way no one else ever had. It felt like we had our own little world, just him and me. When he asked me to be his girlfriend, I said yes without even thinking twice. He was my first love. He used to hold my hand as we walked down the school hallways, always so affectionate. Everyone knew we were together. Some girls were jealous, a few were genuinely happy for us. We dated through the rest of high school, and it felt like nothing could ever tear us apart. We had made plans to go to the same college, but things didn't go as expected. I got into my dream college out of state, but Lucas didn't make the cut. He ended up going to the state college back home instead. At first, it was great. We'd talk all night, share stories about our days. I'd tell him about my classes, and he'd tell me about his time at school with his friends. But slowly, those conversations became shorter. He didn't reply as quickly as he used to. It was like he was slowly drifting away, but I didn't want to believe it. I started to notice that when I called, sometimes he wouldn't pick up, and when he did, he'd say he was busy or caught up with something. I tried to ignore it, but I couldn't help how it made me feel. One day I called him and he didn't answer. I left a message like I always did, but this time he didn't call back. The next day I texted him, "Hey, are you okay? I miss you." He replied an hour later, "I'm fine, just busy with school. I'll call you later." But he didn't. Days passed and we barely spoke. It felt like I was the only one trying to hold on to something that was slipping through my fingers. I tried not to worry. Maybe he was just stressed out. Maybe he needed space. But deep down, I felt like something was wrong. I felt it in my gut. Then a few weeks later, he called me. "I think we need to talk," he said. My heart sank. I could already feel it coming. "I don't think I feel the same anymore," he told me. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to scream, to cry, but I just stayed silent. He explained how he wasn't sure about our relationship anymore, how the distance was too hard. I listened, but it felt like I was hearing him from far away, like I wasn't really there. And just like that, we were over. I never expected it to end this way. I thought we were strong enough. I thought love could handle the distance, but it couldn't. I spent days crying, trying to make sense of everything. How could he just walk away after all we had? How could it end like this? I called Jessica. She listened, like always. She told me he was heartless. She told me I deserved better. But it didn't help. No matter what anyone said, it still hurt. My heart was broken. I didn't know how to move on. And with every day that passed, the distance between us seemed to grow bigger. Not just physically, but emotionally too. I tried to focus on school, on my new life, but part of me was still holding on to the hope that Lucas would come back, that maybe this was just a phase, but deep down I knew he was gone. It took time for the pain to start fading. It wasn't easy. It wasn't something that happened overnight. I'd wake up in the morning, and for a moment, I'd forget about what happened. Then, like a wave, the memories of Lucas would hit me again. The sound of his voice, the way he smiled, the times we laughed together. I tried to keep going, though. I kept myself busy with school and made new friends. I tried to focus on the things that mattered, the things that were right in front of me. But no matter what I did, I couldn't forget him. There were nights when I'd lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the first time we met, about the way everything seemed so perfect. It wasn't fair. Why did it have to end? Jessica was there for me, of course. She always had been. Even though we weren't as close as we used to be, she was still my friend. She listened to me, tried to make me laugh, and told me that everything would be okay in time. But the truth is, I didn't believe her. I didn't feel like I would ever be okay. I didn't feel like I could just move on. It had been a few months since Lucas and I broke up when I started to feel a little bit of peace. It wasn't the kind of peace that healed everything, but it was the kind that helped me get through the day without breaking down. One evening, I was at home, sitting on the couch with my phone in my hand. It had been a long day, and I was exhausted. I opened up my messages and scrolled through them. There at the top of the list was a message from Jessica. I smiled. She had always been the one to reach out first when I needed someone to talk to. We texted back and forth for a while, talking about random things, like the weather and some new movie that came out. It felt normal, like it used to. I felt a little better, but still, a part of me missed the connection we once had. Eventually, I brought up Lucas. I told Jessica how I was doing, how I had started to move on. But deep down, I still thought of him sometimes. "How is he doing?" I asked. There was a pause before Jessica replied. "He's fine," she said. "Still in town, still hanging out with the guys, the usual." It was a simple answer, No details, no emotion, just life. I didn't know why, but it bothered me. I had expected more. I guess I wanted to know that Lucas had thought about me, that he missed me. But I didn't get that. All I got was, he's fine. It was like he had erased me from his life without a second thought. I tried to shake it off. I guess that's good, I replied, my fingers typing the words faster than I wanted. We kept texting for a little while longer, but I felt that old, familiar ache in my chest. I wanted things to go back to the way they were, but I knew they never would. Things had changed between Jessica and me, too. We weren't the same friends we used to be. The more I tried to reach out to her, the more I realized that she had changed, too. It wasn't her fault, I suppose. It was just life. People grow apart, things shift, and sometimes that's how it goes. I didn't blame her for it, but I missed the way we used to be. The closeness, the trust. It felt like we were drifting, just like I had drifted from Lucas. It was a slow, painful process. But somehow I started accepting that things weren't going to go back to the way they were. As the days went by, I kept telling myself to move forward. I started focusing more on work and finding things that made me feel good. I met new people, got involved in different projects, and slowly I began to feel like I was making progress. But there were times when I couldn't help but think about what I had lost. It wasn't just Lucas. It was the part of me that felt like I could never trust anyone completely again. That's what heartbreak does to you. It makes you question everything. I didn't reach out to Jessica as often. She had her own life, her own things to deal with. And honestly, it felt easier that way. We still talk sometimes, but it was surface level. There were no deep conversations anymore, no late-night talks about our dreams. It was just small talk. It was almost like she was slipping away from me. One night, I got a call from Jessica. It had been a while since we'd talked, so I picked up the phone, curious. "Hey, Amelia," she said, her voice soft. "How have you been?" "I've been good," I replied, trying to keep my tone light. "Busy, with work and everything. How about you?" There was a long pause before she spoke again. "Good," she said almost too quickly. "I'm good." It felt like something was off. I couldn't put my finger on it. But I knew that tone. It was the kind of tone people use when they're hiding something. I didn't want to pry, though, so I kept things casual. "I saw that new movie you were talking about," I said, trying to change the subject. "It was really good. I think you'd like it." "Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I've been busy with other stuff." Again, that weird, rushed tone. She didn't elaborate. I didn't ask. The conversation ended shortly after that. I felt unsettled. I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. It wasn't just in our words, it was in the space between them, in the silence. I had no idea what was going on with Jessica, but I knew something was different. And for the first time, I didn't feel like asking. I didn't feel like pushing her to talk. It felt like I was already being left behind, little by little. The next few days passed in a blur. Work kept me busy, and I tried to fill my time with other things. But the feeling of distance between Jessica and me lingered in the back of my mind. I had to face the truth. I was losing her just like I had lost Lucas. It was a slow kind of pain, the kind that creeps in without you realizing it, until it's too late. But the pain was real. It sat in my chest like a heavy stone. I couldn't sleep that night. I just kept asking myself, why Jessica? And once again, I found myself questioning everything. Why did people leave? Why did things change so easily? Why did I have to keep losing the people I cared about the most? 2 years had passed since Lucas and I ended things. I told myself I was moving on, day by day, step by step. I had my job, my routine, and moments where I even felt okay. But deep down, I was still learning how to breathe without him. I was too scared to fall in love again, too scared to trust. Losing him had left a quiet ache I didn't know how to silence. There were moments when I'd think about him, his smile, the way his voice sounded when he told me everything would be okay, how he would hold me when I needed comfort. Sometimes I'd hear a song on the radio that reminded me of us, or catch a glimpse of someone with his same blue eyes and messy hair. It would hit me all over again, that feeling of missing someone who once felt like home. I didn't reach out to Jessica about it anymore. The bond we once shared had weakened over time. The long phone calls, the late-night talks, they were all gone. She had her life and I had mine. But sometimes, when I thought about Lucas, I couldn't help but wonder how she was doing. I didn't expect to hear much from her. After all, things had changed. But still, I found myself reaching for the phone sometimes, typing out a message, then deleting it. I didn't want to seem like I was clinging to something that had already slipped through my fingers. One afternoon, I decided to visit my home. It had been a while since I'd seen my parents, and I wanted to take a break from the busy city life. When I arrived, I was greeted with the same warmth and familiarity, but as I settled back into my childhood room, I realized how different everything felt now. I had decided I would stop by to see Jessica on the day I was heading back to the city. As I spent the weekend catching up with old friends, I ran into a familiar face, Kelly. She had been a year below me in high school, but we always got along. "Amelia?" she said, her eyes lighting up as she approached me. I smiled. "Kelly, wow, it's been years." We decided to grab coffee together. The cafe was quiet, the kind of place where memories echoed off the walls. For a while, we laughed and talked about the past. Then Kelly's smile faded just slightly. "I wasn't sure if I should bring this up," she said, her voice lowering, "but I thought maybe you already knew." My heart started to beat a little faster. "Knew what?" I asked. She hesitated, then said gently, "I saw Jessica recently. She's pregnant." I felt the air shift around me. My former best friend was having a baby, and I was hearing it from someone else. My fingers curled tightly around my cup. "She looked happy," Kelly added quickly. "But when I saw her, I couldn't stop thinking about you." I swallowed hard. "Who's the father?" I asked with a shaky voice. Kelly looked at me, her eyes full of sympathy. "It's Lucas," she said. The name hit me like ice water. I stared at her, trying to keep my expression still. "They're getting married," she said quietly. "Soon, actually. I don't know the full story, but I remember how close you and Jessica were. And you and Lucas? Everyone did." I nodded slowly, still trying to process the words. "I'm sorry, Amelia," Kelly said. "If I overstepped." "You didn't," I interrupted, though my voice trembled. "Thank you for telling me," I said softly. We sat in silence for a moment. Kelly reached across the table and gave my hand a small squeeze. "I just hope you're okay," she said softly. I gave her a weak smile, but inside, everything hurt again. I excused myself from the table soon after. I didn't want to hear more. I didn't want to know the details. But I already knew enough. Jessica had moved on. She had moved on with the one person I had trusted with my heart, the one person I had believed would always be there, my first love. And now he was going to be with her, not just as a friend, but as the father of her child. I walked out of the cafe, feeling the weight of betrayal press down on my chest. It wasn't just about Lucas anymore. It was about Jessica, the person I had trusted with everything, the one I thought would never hurt me, but she had. I didn't know how I was supposed to feel. I didn't know if I was supposed to be angry, sad, or just numb. But all I knew was this. My best friend had taken the man I once loved, and now she was going to marry him and raise a family with him. And me? I was still standing there, trying to pick up the pieces of a broken heart. I didn't cry right away, not when Kelly told me, not even when I got home. The girl who knew all my secrets, the one who comforted me when I cried over Lucas, the one I trusted like a sister. She was the one carrying his child. She was the one he was marrying. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want it to be true, but deep down, I knew it was. She had stopped talking to me months ago. Lucas had disappeared from my life long before that. Maybe they were already together back then. Maybe while I was trying to move on, they were building a new beginning together. I packed my bag and left my home that same evening, told my parents I had work to do, but the truth was I just couldn't stay, not where everything reminded me of them. The ride back to the city was quiet. I looked out the window, but I didn't see anything. My heart was too loud, too broken. When I got home, I sat on my bed. I stared at my phone. Jessica's name was still there. Lucas's too. But I didn't call. I didn't text. What would I even say? They made their choice, and I was not part of it. Weeks passed, then months. I focused on work, smiled when I had to, laughed when it felt possible. But some nights, the memories came back. The first kiss, the walks home from school, the promises, the late night calls with Jessica talking about our future weddings. Now I was left with just memories. One day while scrolling through the internet, I saw a photo by accident, a wedding picture, Jessica in white, Lucas beside her, and a baby in her arms. I didn't cry, I just stared, and slowly I put my phone down. Some people say time heals all wounds. Maybe that's true. But not all scars fade. Some stay with you, quietly. Jessica and Lucas moved on. They built a family. They live a life that was once mine to dream about. And me? I never sought closure. I just learned to let go slowly, quietly, piece by piece. I still remember sometimes. I still feel it. The sting, the betrayal, the deep sadness. But I've also learned something else. That I can survive even the deepest kind of hurt. That I can keep breathing even when my heart feels shattered. And that sometimes the people who hurt us the most were the ones we trusted the deepest. This is my story. It didn't end the way I wanted, but it ended. And maybe that's enough. If you've ever felt this kind of pain, know that healing is possible with time, patience, and love. You are never alone in this journey. Let's heal together. If you enjoyed this story, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and share it with your friends. For more emotional and inspiring stories, make sure to subscribe. Thank you.